Frank Corva here, filling in for the one and only Thomas Pacchia at PubKey, here with two gentlemen, two very special guests, joined by Will Casarin, as well as Zac Guignard from HRF. Will, the founder of Damus. We're going to be talking freedom tech today, freedom tech, social media, trying to actually onboard to these new platforms, to this new style of social media over a protocol versus platform. But let me hand the mic over to you, Will, first. Just a quick introduction, if you don't mind.
Hey guys, I'm Will. I'm the founder of Damus. I'm also a Bitcoin core dev and a Lightning dev, and I do some. I like to think of myself as just a Bitcoin engineer who likes to work on protocols.
Let's go.
Yeah, my name is Zac, and I work at the Human Rights Foundation as a writer on the Financial Freedom team.
Okay, let's do it. If you guys haven't subscribed to the Financial Freedom newsletter, please go ahead and do that right now. Will, I want to start with you. We spoke in Hong Kong a few weeks back. We were on the live desk together talking about all things Nostr, value for value, all good stuff we'll dive into today. But I was thinking to myself on the way over here, I don't know much about your background, how you got into all of this. I was wondering if you're some sort of like maybe wunderkind who just sort of taught himself all this stuff, or whether you're classically trained as an engineer. Could you give us a little background to start us off?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we can go back to when I got into programming. I was like 10 years old and I wanted to make video games. That was actually how I got into programming.
Whoa.
So I spent probably 10 years from the age 10 to 20 just building game engines. So I probably built like 20 game engines, and that's how I learned how to program. But yeah, and then I think I found Bitcoin in 2010. I just saw, I think it was like a Hacker News post. Wow. And I like downloaded it and I was like, started playing with it. I sent my first Bitcoin transaction on December 21st, 2010, I think.
What? Okay.
And so I was like sending Bitcoin to all my friends, and like everyone gets a Bitcoin. And I was like, cause they were only 30 cents at the time. And I just felt like it was so cool. I had to show everyone how it worked. I mean, all those people lost all the Bitcoin I sent, but that's the early days of Bitcoin. It's like,
wow.
So yeah. And ever since then, I realized this is the most important technology to work on. I just got obsessed. Like everything I was doing, I was working at a record label at the time, and I'm like, let's sell our albums with Bitcoin. So I think we were one of the first record labels in 2013 to sell our music with Bitcoin.
Really?
It's called Monster Cat. It was an electronic music label.
Cool. Nice.
But yeah, so I've just always tried to incorporate it. And then eventually I'm like, I better just quit my standard jobs and just go work on. So I decided to work on Lightning in 2017.
Wow.
Tried to do a Lightning startup. It didn't really work because like there was like 5 nodes on the network. I think I have the oldest Lightning node on the network.
Is that right?
Yeah. That's still running from the same PubKey. Probably next to like the Blockstream store. I don't know. We'll still see. I don't know if that's still up, but yeah, just been obsessed with like, because once you got to experience a Lightning transaction for the first time, it was like, this is the future. I was convinced. It was a regular Bitcoin transaction is cool, but when you do a Lightning transaction, it's like instant. It's like you get that same dopamine hit that I got in 2010. I was like, anyway, so I've just been downhill since then.
Wow. I mean, downhill. I wouldn't put it that way, but fair enough. That is wild. So I didn't know any of that. So when you started first working on this, I mean, it wasn't like there were jobs out there, places looking to hire you. So what does work look like? You start doing this work and did you just maybe get a whole bunch of Bitcoin and that was subsidizing the time you were spent working on it?
I mean, there was a certain point, it was like when the price hit 20K, I'm like, I could basically quit my job now at 20K for Bitcoin. So it wasn't really true though, because it was still very volatile. It would go down to like 10K. And
right.
But my partner was helping me out at the time. So that helped a little bit. But yeah, it was very optimistic. This idea I'm going to build, I think I was working on something called Satsbacker, which was a very early version of like Geyser Fund, you would say.
Oh, cool.
I called it Bitsbacker and everyone hated that because I was like such a Bits maxi at the time.
Okay.
But now I don't try to call things Bits anymore because I get attacked online.
Yeah. That's how it goes. That's how online goes.
But yeah, I just wanted to, but I realized that, Lightning wasn't really taking off. So I actually stopped working on Satsbacker and I decided to do a Bitcoin education company. So I put a bunch of articles out in the local Vancouver newspaper, like, hey, come talk to me. I'm the Bitcoin Wizard. That was the name of the company, Bitcoin Wizard.
Awesome.
It turns out it's hard to get people to actually care about Bitcoin. If you're just like, hey, just like, send me an email if you want to learn about Bitcoin. It's like, no one's going to go out of their way to learn it.
I started a newsletter 5 years ago and I thought like everyone in my life is going to thank me for sharing my knowledge with them. And they were just like, dude, you're a loser. Stay away from me. And you're a scammer. Please stop. It's like, oh, okay. So got it.
After that, I'm like, okay, we need to do something where people are just going to use it. I'm going to force people to use it and experience it. And they're not even going to know they're using it. So that's where I'm like, I saw the Nostr thing. I started working on Damus. I'm like, why don't we just add a Zap button, right? So people like they can just join and experience Bitcoin without even knowing about they don't even have to know what Bitcoin is. And, and we've actually converted like a lot of people on Nostr, a lot of people just joined because Jack was like promoting it and they weren't really Bitcoiners.
Yep.
And a lot of people on my team as well, they were not Bitcoiners, but now they're all Bitcoiners because it's just like, oh yeah, this makes sense, right? So
amazing. Let's actually, I was thinking this too, your Nostr story. So you found Bitcoin early, you found Lightning relatively early. When did you first come across Nostr?
Yeah, it was, I think Nostr, it probably came out, when did he come up with it? I think it was like 2020 or something, 2021.
Yeah, right.
And I was a little bit late to the scene at 2022. I started working on there was no mobile client at the time.
Okay.
I think the only web client was Fiat Jeff's Bronley client, it was called. And there was another one, oh my God, I forget. I shouldn't forget that. But but there was like, I think I was posting like twice a day or something. And it was like too much posting. It was like breaking all the clients because they couldn't handle the load of my posting.
Wow.
I was like the only one posting. And I was like, okay, well, I didn't believe that it had to be this slow. So I just like, I'm going to try this. I know how to program. I know how to make apps. So I built my first iOS app. So Damus was my first iOS app. And in a weekend basically. And I was like, wow, I'm convinced like if it's that easy to do this, like to build a client, then this is going to be huge. Because if it's easy for developers to get on board and start building clients, then it's going to take off. And it did. Like we saw like hundreds of clients built, and yeah, it was just so elegant. And I've always been looking for a solution because as a protocol nerd, I've always loved this idea of how do we leverage technology to kind of add more freedom into the world.
Sure.
So Bitcoin obviously was one of the big first versions of that, but the social media things, I'm kind of addicted. I was addicted to Twitter. I think I joined Twitter in like 2008 or something. And I've just been posting nonstop.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, and then when you saw like Trump get banned in like 2017, I'm like, well, if he can get deplatformed, like anyone can be, right? And like, and if we're thinking about a future where, what is the future we want to see? What is the future we want to build? I don't want to live in a future where like Elon or some random person that takes over after he's gone is now deciding who's allowed to speak and who's not allowed to speak. So I'm like, well, Bitcoin taught us how to solve this problem for money. It's like, there's got to be a solution in terms of free speech. Right? So I've always been obsessed, so the first iterations of that was like the Fediverse. So ActivityPub was like, there was some attempts at that. I think NVK started the Bitcoin hackers instance.
Okay.
So I joined that. Actually, it wasn't the first one I joined. I joined another one, which is supposed to be a libertarian instance, but I started talking about Bitcoin and the libertarian guy didn't like that I was talking about Bitcoin. So he banned my account.
Interesting.
So I'm like, wait, this is supposed to be the future where it's supposed to be decentralized, but it actually still was a very feudal setup where it's like all the instance admins could ban you if they didn't like what you're saying, and all the instances could ban each other. And I'm like, this is like worse than Twitter. Like, what's going on? So that's when I saw Nostr. I'm like, oh, okay, this is the right way to do it. So yeah,
interesting. I want to actually bring this over to actually HRF. Also seeing when did HRF see value in Nostr? Because obviously, with Bitcoin, they've understood Bitcoin since I believe it was Roya Mahbub who introduced Alex to it. He didn't even fully get it at first when she first introduced him in 2014. But Nostr, I think the broader freedom tech messaging is now really at the core of things for HRF. I mean, the financial freedom team is now 7 or 8 of you at this point?
More actually now.
Is it really?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
There's 10 of us at least.
So when did Nostr also start fitting in? And then maybe if you want to talk a little bit about how the relationship has developed. I think I met you for the first time at the Oslo Freedom Forum 2 years ago. So like it's been a good 2 years that HRF, I think, has embraced Nostr as well at this point.
Yeah, at least. Yeah, so as you were saying, like Nostr was started in 2020 by Fiat Jaff, the developer. And so I think I definitely had a Nostr account before I started working at HRF. So I believe there was overlap there. I can't even remember why I first started. Like, I think I just saw it on X, right?
Okay.
Like people in the Bitcoin communities there were talking about Nostr, and I was like, okay, this seems really cool, and looked into it. And then of course, if you're looking at it just kind of from a purely freedom tech perspective, it fits right in with this, emerging freedom tech stack that we're seeing, and freedom tools that, activists and dissidents and civil society more broadly can use. And so, thanks in part to the amazing vision and strategy of Alex Gladstein himself, who, pioneered the financial freedom program and at HRF and introduced Bitcoin to the organization, similarly kind of introduced Nostr to the organization. And I think it comes down to the fact that, Bitcoin is freedom money. And I believe it was Martin Malmy, one of the earlier Nostr developers as well, who said, Nostr is freedom of everything else. And so it was very much like, it felt like a very logical fit as we were looking at a technology like Bitcoin to also be complemented by something like Nostr.
Amazing. Very, very cool. I think one of the big things that I think everyone will say sort of Nostr kind of feels like early internet, which I kind of love, but I would imagine that the average user coming over from Instagram or Twitter might not be in love with that. It might feel a little bit jagged to them. How do you address that, Will? So like, I think, we were talking a little bit before we started recording about wanting to onboard more people, not even saying here's how Nostr works or whatever. It's just like, hey, if you're a content creator, post your stuff here as well. Maybe you'll get some Zaps. I know recently you've made it more easier to get a wallet on Nostr. So I think you did work with CoinOS, if I'm not mistaken. So it's much easier to now have your wallet through Damus on iOS where you couldn't beforehand. What other steps are you taking to make Nostr more just something that people can more easily pick up and get started with?
Yeah, I mean, those things you mentioned are like the big levers that we can use to convince people that this is worth doing. I think that's kind of the hardest thing. It's like, why would I want to use this technology? A lot of people are not swayed by the censorship resistance because like a lot of normal people don't have that issue. Right. So you kind of have to convince them in different ways. So for instance, one of the first things that they experience when they join the network is like they join and all it is like a Bitcoin community. And this is like the number one complaint that we get. I'm like, as Bitcoiners, we love talking with other Bitcoiners, but for like everyone else, maybe they want to talk about something else every now and then. So
imagine that.
Yeah. Bitcoiners are like, why would you want to do that? It makes no sense. So we've been really looking at how do we cultivate communities and how do we like have ways where you can kind of craft a different space that's not, you're not constantly talking about Bitcoin all the time. Yep. So one of the things involved with that, actually Calais came up with this cool spec on Nostr called follow packs. So now basically people can put curated lists of like, if you're, here's all the people interested in farming, here's all the people interested in homesteading, all this stuff. So now we actually leverage those packs during onboarding. So if you join, you can actually get recommended people to follow that are just maybe not Bitcoiners. Yep. So that's been a huge first step. And then obviously the communities thing we want to do. And also we just want to make it, we are onboarding people onto Bitcoin, and there's a lot of it's like their first Bitcoin experience for a lot of people. And we also don't want to, at least me personally, I don't want to push people into custodial solutions. So that's kind of been a big challenge. So we've actually been working with Spiral. Actually, they're building a wallet for us.
Is that right?
Yeah. So it's like this. It's a graduated wallet. Okay. So we really want to test this very soon. So CoinOS is kind of like a temporary thing, and a lot of people rightly criticize people for the Nostr community for pushing people into custodial solutions, but we think we have a good way to have like a little bit of custody. But then when you hit a certain level, it'll actually create a non-custodial channel and stuff. Anyway, so there's lots of cool tech that we're looking at right now. Because because if we're going to onboard millions of people, that's the goal. Like we want to make sure that people actually are not going to get rugged and stuff. So that's probably the biggest challenge in terms of the wallet side. Okay. But yeah, other than that, those are kind of the main challenges we're facing right now. Okay.
Well, one other challenge that comes to my mind with this, so you're building, you're building on an open protocol. Monetization seems challenging. So I'm not even sure with Damus if they have some sort of sign up. Like I know Primal has like a sign up and you can, you're sort of, your what's it called? I don't know, just elevated status on the network. But figuring out a way to fund all this development, obviously, if you're a platform like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever that is, it's just a company behind it. So with Damus and with, you think, other developers, do you think the pace of development will potentially be slower because it's a little harder to fund it? And also, how do you fund it? I know that HRF helps support on some level, but in terms of monetization, how do you see that developing?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the Nostr community and actually a lot of the Bitcoin community, we benefit from having Jack Dorsey, who just funds most of everything.
He likes to fund everything, yes.
But I think we need to figure out like actual sustainable models because, God bless his soul, but I don't know if that's a long-term reliable sustainability strategy. Yeah. So we've been trying to, really leverage Zaps as a way to kind of like be self-sustained. But I think you need to hit a certain number of users. I think I think I did the math on it, and we probably need like 3,000 subscribers before we can even just have like afford an employee. So we just need more users. I don't think it's that hard to, do a value for value model and do Zaps, because we have this right now in Damus where you can, whenever you do a Zap, you can actually send a percentage of the Zap to Damus to support us.
Oh, I saw that.
And so if you actually build a Zap economy where everyone's using it for commerce, everyone's using it for their day to day, like you basically take a small little tax. It's like it's a voluntary tax. But that would be enough to fund if we have enough users. Right? Yep. But we're not. So that should be our main goal as a community. Is like we just need to get more users, and I think this funding issue will probably sort itself out for people who want to support the clients and stuff. So I don't know. just need more users. I
Okay.
think. Yeah.
Speaking of more users, we were talking, beforehand earlier about Leopoldo Lopez. He's super excited. So for those who don't know, Leopoldo, Venezuelan opposition leader, does a lot of stuff in affiliation with HRF. I actually interviewed him downstairs here at PubKey a few months back at an HRF event, and he just wanted to tell everyone there like how awesome zapping was. He was so into it, and it's cool because that's obviously someone, he's come to Bitcoin, he's come to understand the importance of it, but he seems genuinely enthused. And I ended up spending some time with some other Venezuelans that were there and showing them how to do it, and they were enthused. You've brought the activist community to Nostr. There's more and more people coming to it because of HRF. Is that same level of enthusiasm there? And do you see that community maybe being something where many more people sort of onboard many other activists around the world and then extensions of that? Are you seeing that right now?
I mean, I think that is definitely what the goal is behind the efforts, we put towards Nostr, whether that's, our public grants that we share that, increasingly go towards Nostr and Nostr adjacent projects and Bitcoin related things.
Yeah.
Seeing someone like Leopoldo embracing, what we're just calling freedom tech now, and we're kind of coining this new term, decentralized resistance, where you're using a confluence of freedom technologies like Bitcoin and open source AI and Nostr and various other things, BitChat, another one now.
Yep.
As a means to resist, authoritarianism, financial repression, restrictions on other traditional platforms and speech and things like that. It's kind of as Will alluded to, there is a bit of a user hurdle here, right?
Yeah.
It would be great to see more users, and I'm not necessarily sure what the direct path to achieving that is, but absolutely a big part of our work and our goals is to help activists and civil society leaders understand Nostr and how to use it, and allowing them to then take that to their networks and their communities to leverage it as well.
Very, very cool. Something I think about a lot with any people developing freedom tech more broadly is, and I don't mean to get too heavy here, but it's like, do you ever think that on some level, you're a very public figure from what I understand, Will's your real name and all this stuff. You're out here.
As far as you know.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, maybe not. But do you, I think on a certain level, we're here in the land of the free in America. I get it, right? But do we really want pure freedom of speech, or does the government plus these bigger platforms, Facebook, all this, do they really want that control over people? Do they want to be able to deplatform or regulate things in a certain way? And on a certain level, do you feel like they might start, I'm not saying targeting that sort of dramatic targeting, but they might have a problem with something like this, with this level of free speech and this level of being able to put your thoughts out there without any sort of moderation.
Yeah, so there's a lot of aspects to that. One, which is governments, having a single point where they can put pressure on to censor people. And obviously that's one of the main things that Nostr resists. But it's not to say that moderation tools aren't useful or important in certain situations. Right. I've always said moderation isn't completely lawless, speech is, if people have an issue with that, it's not really about the fact that moderation or lack of moderation is the issue. It's the fact that there's only one moderator, right? So if you look at X, you usually have a trust and safety team of one small group of people who have control of everything. What I think Nostr will enable is depending on what level of moderation you want, you're gonna have a decentralized form of moderation and speech. So if you want to see if you don't want to see hateful stuff, then you can maybe run a client that filters that out for you.
Okay.
I think it's just moving away from centralized moderation to more decentralized moderation. But I don't know if that answers your question.
No, I think it's interesting. I'm thinking not only a client, but then you could maybe choose algorithms that filter that stuff out as well. Is that, yeah.
Yeah, so that's where we're even looking at that as well. You have basic stuff block with mute words, but now with the world of AI, you could probably just tell your AI hey, here's a bunch of stuff I don't want to see, and just run it through. So you just make sure you pass all the notes that you're receiving into that filter, and that can filter it out.
Got it.
And that's even something, we have something in Damus Android called Dave, which is kind of an AI agent for that can search Nostr, and so it'll eventually be able to do those things filter your feed, and it's definitely down the pipeline coming. Interesting.
Another thing, Jack has brought this up as well, but I think people who are a little bit further down the Nostr rabbit hole or sort of understand how it works, it is something they think about, this idea that technically something you post there would never be fully deleted potentially if certain relays decide not to delete it. Do you think that's a potential issue in the long run?
Yeah, that's that's the one benefit of centralization, is that you have one place you can delete the note if the user really wants to delete it. I mean, a lot of the time it's actually not even deleted. It's just hidden.
But
and if they get a subpoena, it's like, so, I think for Nostr, it's just a more honest view of like what's actually happening at the data level.
Yeah.
And, for the most part, you can choose which relays you talk to. And as long as you trust those relays to actually delete the things. I mean, it's not perfect because like people could download the note from that relay and put it in their archival relay.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely, when you're on a censorship resistant network, it's hard to delete stuff. It's just a fact.
Yeah.
So if you're not okay with that, maybe just like, don't use it.
Understood. Okay. When it comes to privacy, I'll pose this to both of you. So obviously, if you want privacy on Nostr, you'd probably use a NIM, other things as well. But then there's also like with the chats that people are using, or if our DMs encrypted, that seems to be one of the things that people are struggling with. There was some talk about this, I think 2 global Bitcoin summits ago. I was talking with some people about this. When it comes to privacy on Nostr, what does the future look like? Is it going to be easy to create those chats? Do they exist already? And is it something that activists do want to use? I'm imagining they wouldn't want to use it under their real name, but only because of how transparent everything is and the fact that people can be, holding onto this information via their relays. Any thoughts or sort of issues that come to mind when you think of this? I'll start with you, Zac.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be circumstantial. Depending on who you are and what your situation is, and how much privacy you need or you feel you need. I think we'll be a bit more equipped to answer, like on a technical level, what those developments are right now. But we are seeing, like, I believe there are certain clients that have encrypted messaging. I know that there's the development of a new application called White Noise, which is gaining quite a bit of popularity using a similar.
Will that be incorporated into Nostr?
I believe there are some clients working on doing that,
cool.
if not already.
Yeah, I mean, Damus will probably do it eventually.
There you go.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. If you want to take it from there. Yeah. So what would that look like?
So there's been a long history of like private messaging on Nostr. So the very first iteration was called, I think it's NIP04, which was really simple DMs. But it had a few flaws. It leaked metadata, so people could see everyone who's DMing each other, which is not ideal. So like, okay, we rightfully identified that this is a problem that needs to be fixed. So there's been a few more iterations on private notes. One is called GIF wraps, which is really cool because it's more general. So you can just say, take any node on the network. It could be like a like. Right, you take a like, wrap it, send it to the network. You can't see all the metadata is gone, and only the receiver can unwrap it to see what it is. So this will enable things like private likes. It's like on Instagram, you have private likes on stories. This will be actually private likes. Right?
I didn't even know that. Interesting.
And so that's cool technology. So the White Noise actually utilizes GIF wraps as a container format. So because it like hides the metadata. So then you can actually do proper signal level like forward to secrecy encryption and things like that. And this is becoming increasingly important, as we saw with, the outage on AWS and the fact that it affected Signal. We're starting to see like what happens if like an adversary takes down Signal servers, if they're that centralized. We're going to need technology that is like the original vision of the internet, which was, this is what DARPANET, like that's what it was originally built for in a wartime scenario, where if an adversary takes down your data center, which is like now becoming increasingly easy, which you could probably just drop a bomb on it or something, and then take out the private communications of every individual, like that's a serious problem.
Of course.
So like so what Nostr will enable is basically signal level encryption, but distributed across multiple relays. So it'd be much harder to censor, much harder to stop, and just be more reliable in the cases where AWS goes down. So,
okay. Alexis Ohanian today, I think, issued a statement saying like most of the internet is dead. Dead
internet theory?
Dead internet theory, and I think dead in this regard means sort of people, entities have control over it, Google or whatever that, whoever else, other major companies, Silicon Valley companies. Nostr right now, I think when most people think of it, they think of maybe a Twitter clone. They think of, sort of a different version of what already exists. In your mind, does Nostr, let's just say, it sounds hyperbolic, but bring the internet back to life? And then what are we missing right now? What can it do that we're not even really thinking about? So
I think this is something where people are really underestimating the power of Nostr, how we're going to solve this, like the dead internet theory problem. So the dead internet theory is that, and you see it too, when you go onto Google, you search for something, it's just like, advertisements and like stuff that corporate people want you to see.
Yep.
And so, but there's actually a really cool search engine called Marginalia, I think it's called.
Never heard
and
of
it. And it like brings back like search engines from like 2000s and earlier. So if you do like, you search like GoldenEye 64, you'll see like all these really old scrappy those old HTML, like the video game, like stuff that was before the corporate internet takeover. So that was a glimpse of like, oh wait, there's still like a really cool part of the internet, like a nostalgic part of the internet that's there.
Yeah.
It's just kind of obfuscated because the algorithms that is run by corporate, like, corporations are obfuscating it.
Yep.
So, what I think Nostr can help in this area is the fact that like, because all the notes are signed and the algorithm choice is up to the user, you're no longer forced. These algorithms are no longer forced on you. So you actually have a more authentic feed. Like you get a pure reverse chronological feed from people you follow.
Yep.
So it's kind of like, and that was something that was very common in the early days of the internet. So we're getting a little bit of that back. So maybe if we continue like to build out Nostr, spread it some more, maybe we can like restore, like fight back against the dead internet theory.
Okay.
And restore some of the original vision of the internet. So like that's the grander goal of Nostr. It's not just a social media replacement, right?
Yeah.
This is a protocol for restoring the original internet.
So when I think about that, I mean, I love that. When I think about it, though, I think about when the internet was alive, quote unquote. It wasn't so, it was a little bit tougher to use, kind of a little bit more jagged. Is there a world where things run on Nostr and it's all a bit smoother? Maybe it looks a little bit more like the internet today, but it has sort of that level of not being, the lack of corporate control. Is there a sweet spot, do you think?
I think the technology enables a new type of web. Like,
okay.
So the web was built on this idea of a document, right? So if you look at it with how the entire browser stack is the document object model, which is just, here's a way to put up some text that's like supposed to be like a representation of a piece of paper.
Yeah.
And somehow we built like these like horrible applications on top of this tech stack, which doesn't even make sense. It doesn't really make sense to use a document object model for building apps, right?
Okay.
So, I think we can build something akin to like the web browser, but it's not based off web technology. It's based off Nostr technology.
Okay.
And what does this mean? So some properties of the web are, you can hyperlink between pages, but a lot of pages can't really share data. Right?
Yeah.
They're very much isolated. They're very much like silos. But like in a Nostr-based web, you can have an app that's generating data for other apps. And we already see this, right? So Primal can generate I can consume it within Damus.
Yep.
So what does it look like if you have a new type of internet where internet that are social applications that can all share data between them? Anyway, it's mind blowing to me every time I think about this, and we're not even really exploring it. Like we're just starting to. I feel like the follow packs are maybe one example of this. But I think just like, and that's why at Damus we're building like kind of like a Nostr browser. Like that's one of the. So it's called NoteDeck, and we're trying to see what this would look like if we can build a browser for Nostr applications. But maybe that will help restore some of the original internet. I don't know. Maybe it's a theory that I have in mind, but
that's cool. You've used we a few times. How big is we and who is we in your mind? Like when you say you're talking about these things, is it some of the builders of these other clients? Is it just other? Yeah.
Nostr in Latin actually stands for hours. Right.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. So when I say we,
right. Nostr. Right.
When I say Nostr, when I say we, I really mean like the Nostr community. Like,
okay.
Because everything they contribute to the network in terms of application and the software, it's like I get to benefit from it.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a very like. It's one of these protocols where it's like, again, it's very much like Bitcoin. It's like a positive sum where every contribution is helping everyone out.
Yep.
And I think that at a certain scale is going to be like very hard to ignore. We're going to have these compounding network effects of people, you join on Primal, then Damus user will see the benefit of that. Someone joins on Zaps stream, and then, we're adding streams as well to Damus. So like, yeah, I think the more legacy social media is going to find it hard in the long run to compete because they're trying to build their monopolized silos, but it's going to be like, well, what if I could just use my Instagram and it works with my Twitter and they work together?
Yeah.
That's a really powerful idea that we haven't really seen that yet, but that's the future.
There's been a few, like I forget what the Instagram clone was that came out about a few months ago. I was using it a little bit. It felt a little glitchy, but it's interesting, and I've tried to explain that to people. It's this idea of, imagine it was just one sign in for all of those things, or your followers followed you across all of that. That seems very, very appealing.
And not only your followers, but all your application data, right?
Yeah. Super, super appealing. Zac, you said you signed up for Nostr before even starting at HRF. You've been on it for a while. So maybe, I guess for those who haven't, maybe take us up to speed. What have you seen change, and what would you like to see change? What are some features you would like to see maybe added to something like Damus or some of the bigger clients out there?
That's a great question, Frank. Well, I mean, I will say over the couple of years I've been on there, it's improved massively. You know, you've seen an explosion of different clients, and they're all kind of, I mean, they're all benefiting from each other, and at the same time, they're all pushing each other forward with these implementations of new features. You know, when Zaps became a thing, that was a huge breakthrough
massive,
moment, right? And now, as Will was saying, you know, we're seeing better and better privacy for communications, both protecting the metadata and for group chats. So, I mean, I feel like right now it's at a point where it's kind of satisfying a certain level of like users and usage and doing the job that it's supposed to do, which is providing a censorship resistant communications layer for the internet is kind of how I view it. And so, man, what features would I like to see? That's a really good question. I'm not sure I have an answer to that. I feel like Will might have a great answer.
I was saying,
I'm curious what's on the menu, what's coming.
Please, let's go.
I actually gave a keynote on this in Riga and Nostriga, and we haven't really explored it too much, but going back to that idea of like GIF wraps, this idea of being able to take any node on the network, whether it be a repost, a post, a like, and wrapping it into a private form and only broadcasting that to people who are subscribed to you who you subscribe to, all of a sudden you can actually form this really private social network. So like every aspect of using a Nostr app is private only among the people who you are interacting with. There's a little bit of that in Signal. I think Signal has like stories and that they only get sent, your stories only get sent to those. I think that's a weird feature in Signal. I don't know how many people use that. But this idea of building these private social networks is really cool and underexplored. So yeah, I think like right now people think Nostr is like this very public, and like what you're saying, it's hard to delete your data. But if you're encrypting it to all your friends and only your friends see it, like all of a sudden all these new use cases pop up, right? Especially for activists and things like that. So I want to see more of that.
Very cool. Yeah. What do you think? One of the things that kind of blows my mind is not seeing more like a broader array of journalists on it. I know Matt Taibbi signed up earlier, handful of like those set characters, but it kind of felt like they came and they were like, all right, this isn't where the conversation's happening. I'm going elsewhere. The Amy Goodmans of the world, like just the people who care, like, you know, who I think would really get this technology is just that we're not having those conversations with those people. Like, should myself as a journalist be going to them and saying, hey, check this out? Or do you think maybe it's a little bit because there isn't so much of like broader conversation happening there? And then sort of I'm just trying to think. I know that, you know, if there were a handful of maybe prominent journalists, celebrities, whatever, it may end up bringing a bunch of people over. Do you think that's the way it's going to go? That maybe a newspaper, I doubt it would be the New York Times, but let's say the Guardian or something decides to come over. Do you think we need certain wins like that to actually start to attract a broader audience? Either or, yeah.
I think it would be great if we did have that. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, how can that, you know, that's a headline that's going to make mainstream media. I mean, I think this is one of the most powerful use cases of Nostr is for journalists, especially journalists living in difficult political environments, right? And so I would love to see more people using Nostr in that way. I know we are seeing like a couple examples at least of like people building platforms on Nostr for journalism specifically, even like things like Layer 3 Press, Stringer Foundation, and you're also seeing this integration of like long form reads. That's been one of my favorite features that I've actually seen. I should have said that in the last question now that I think about it. You know, Primal now has like a built-in long form article creator. You can use tools like Highlighter to put long form articles on Nostr, and we use this at HRF to post the Financial Freedom Report every single week. We post on Nostr using these tools, and you know, I haven't written an article myself in a little while, but if I did, I would also be using these tools and posting on Nostr as a writer myself, even, you know, here in a liberal democracy. So I would love to see more of that happening, you know, kind of on the margins, people that are facing these threats to free speech and who need to share their work in an uncensorable way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
From what I've found, it's like, you know, there seems to be this broader view of Bitcoin still, which is like, it's like full of crypto bros, or it's like the same as crypto. And a lot of normies still have this thought. Like I still talk to a lot of like, even like the journalists who they're not focused on Bitcoin, right?
No.
So they think it as like, oh, it's just like the crypto bro. They're just like an investment, you know? And I feel like that is such a huge barrier because it's not cool among like the elite, right? It's still
quite
not
the
cool.
opposite. The elite do not, and I would say most of them don't like it.
Yeah, so the intelligentsia are like they join and they see a bunch of Bitcoiners talking, and it's like, well, I'm gonna go to Blue Sky because that's where all the cool people are or something, because that's what they think, and then they get banned.
Yeah, right.
So I don't know how. Like, I feel like that is the deeper cultural issue that needs to be solved, and that's why I really like the whole freedom technology branding, because it's like, look, it's like we're building censorship resistant freedom technology.
Yeah.
It doesn't like. It's not. We're not doing this for an investment. That's why even like, I know, not to knock on Bitcoin Asia too much, but it felt like it was just like very investment focused. Everyone's talking about like treasury companies.
Yeah, I was going to say there was some of that
but
talk there.
like how is that helping if we're trying to convince the world that this is like freedom technology that's going to like, free people from, their governments? I don't know. It's like,
It's not helping.
There are some contradictions, I would say, at play.
But it's like to sell those tickets for
yeah.
those events. It's like, unfortunately, that seems to be what attracts people, is like the investment angle.
What you made an announcement at that particular event. In your mind, it's like, why would you come to an event like that to make that announcement versus doing? I mean,
that's exactly why.
Okay,
because I was like, hey, who's heard of Nostr? Like 0 people put up there. I don't know if they're just shy there. I don't know. It's like a different culture.
Yeah.
And I think and my talk was interesting because it was like everyone's talking about treasury companies. I'm like, but I put up the Bitcoin white paper and I'm like, look at what Satoshi says here. Peer-to-peer electronic cash. Sure, we're winning in like the numbers, like the price number go up, but are we winning on the payments, right? So I really wanted to focus on, are we using this technology for, and I was trying to make the point that, getting sats in people's pockets is actually probably the most important things in terms of like getting them free and making them more free. So I started talking about Zaps and all that, and how that helps.
Yep.
But yeah, I just like, that was kind of like that's why I went there, because I wanted to kind of fight against everyone talking about treasury companies a little bit.
Yeah. No, I think it was very necessary. I was there and witnessed that, and I thought it was really important. I want to go back to that in a second, but I also had a quick technical question, and this came down to, let's just say like a newspaper did want to have somebody manage their social media account, a Nostr account. One of the issues there too is that once the private key is known to whatever person ends up managing that, now you that's out there. Whereas with Twitter, you can go, or X, you can go and change the password afterwards, and that's going to solve. I know there are some people working on this issue. What does the future look like?
It's very solvable. Like, we already have this technology called NSEC bunker.
Right, NSEC bunker.
So you don't ever get access to the private key, but like your employer can give you this NSEC bunker that you temporarily have access to.
Yep.
Then you can basically put that connection string into any client except Damus, because I don't know, I should probably do that.
But no pressure. Yeah.
But yeah, once we had that, then they should be able to like create posts on their behalf and things like that. So it's very easily solvable. It just hasn't been like prioritized, but it'll come around eventually.
Okay, cool. Something that came to mind, that last point that you were just making about getting sats into people's pockets. One of my favorite quotes from anyone I've interviewed in the last year came from Peter von Valkenburg, who's the head of Coin Center. And he said, the United States right now is well on its way to becoming, the crypto capital world as far as, securitization and ETFs around crypto. He's like, but in terms of P2P rights, we have a long way to go. What do you, so we've seen Samurai, we've seen Tornado Cash. You're talking about having a non-custodial wallet that's going to be, with Spiral and being affiliated with, and something that people can use with Damus. Is that fight done? Is there a lot, do you think we're maybe still in the early stages of that fight? And, given that we're now going to be onboarding to people things like Damus, to Nostr, and people are going to be getting these apps, I feel like we're kind of in the glory days right now where there's no one pushing KYC on any of this, but the fight is going to eventually come to our doorstep. Your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, it's so topical right now because I guess like Trump just pardoned CZ, and it's like, and you have these Tornado Cash people who are just like facing, and it's just such a joke. I don't know. So there is a question of like, is Lightning, there's always been a long-term question in Lightning, is like, is it a money transmitter? And that's why in my profile I have unlicensed money transmitter.
just asking for a little bit of attention.
Let's see what happens. Because it's true. But this is why I find it really important to make sure that the protocols are in place, that you have lots of options to switch to if they start putting pressure onto individual players. Like, that's why I've always like kind of criticized Primal. I mean, they are my competitors, so I like to shit on them every now and then. But like, they have like this they have this wallet that's kind of built in, and obviously it's a partnership with Strike, but it's like, they could put pressure there, right? So this is where this technology, which I'm a huge proponent of, created by Albi. Shout out to Albi.
Albi's, love the Albi team.
Face mask.
Amen. Shout out.
Is they create this technology which is like the USB-C cable of connecting wallets, called Nostr Wallet Connect.
Yep.
And so yeah, just being able to switch out a wallet if any individual wallet gets pressure,
Yep.
Is really important. Just creating technology like that. So honestly, they're gonna have such a hard time fighting cypherpunks because like the minute they come and attack us, we're gonna be more motivated to build technology to be like, you know what? Okay, we'll just get route around you. We're gonna.
Totally.
It's good. I think it's helpless if governments try to go after software developers. It's like, sorry, we can go on behind a Tor node, write some pseudonymous code, and like we will fight you and we will win. Trust me. So
the memo from the Department of Justice, I'm forgetting his name right now, the Deputy Attorney General, but he issued a memo in April of this year saying we're not going after the technology anymore. We'll go after the people who abuse the technology. Some background information. I emailed him for about 2 months straight, almost every day, and I never got a response saying like, "Hey, okay, why are you still allowing the Tornado Cash and Samurai trials to proceed then if we're not going after the actual technology or whatever?" You know, we're in a different place in the United States than we were under the Biden administration. And whether you're a Trump fan or not, you have to give credit where it's due. There have been some major wins, everything from Ross being free to there being less pressure on the industry more broadly. But overall, as a final question here, do you think we are, you know, in the things that we care about most, P2P rights, freedom tech, are we trending in the right direction, or is there a lot of work to be done?
I mean, I think there's still work to be done. I think there's a long road ahead of us. But I mean, I would just hammer home the point that, you know, developers of these technologies need a safe haven here in a liberal democracy so that they can build these tools so that not only we can use them and we can build the foundations for freedom and human rights and democracy, but also so that everyone else around the world in adverse environments where they can't actually build these tools or are immediately prosecuted for doing so can use them as well.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah, I mean, if any government wants to come at me, I'll just go black. I'll go, shadowy supercoder, change into a pseudonym. They wouldn't even know that I'm working on it. So they could try, but it's not going to stop me. So.
Well, that's that. I think that's as good a place to leave it as
I love
any.
your optimism.
A real nice cypherpunk ending there, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you guys for tuning in. There will be a live streaming through the PubKey X, if I'm not mistaken, YouTube as well. Just X, YouTube X, Rumble maybe too. Make sure to tune in at 6 o'clock. Zac will be hosting Zac and Will fireside chat here at PubKey downstairs in the main room. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and thank you gentlemen for joining us.
Thank you, Frank.
No doubt. We'll talk soon, everybody.